counter against the host Morocco. I think the programs that have been implemented in these various key countries have really been impressive and have been yielding a lot of results. I wouldn't want to touch too much on South Africa because we all know the history behind them. They've done a lot of work with previous sponsors. Sasol doing a lot of sponsorship in helping the Premiership to get underway and getting things to happen. But I'm also impressed by what has taken place in Zambia. I'm actually one of those few people who are monitoring closely, what was happening in Zambia. Remember what they did as far back when Kalusha Bwalya was the president of the federation in Zambia. They came up with a plan to be able to assist the teams to purchase buses. They came up with a plan to assist the teams with getting subsidized fuel. They came up with plans for technical support where the teams were able to access footballs and boots and uniforms at a lower price. And that was the boom time for Zambian football, not just the women's aspect, but for the men as well. And from that time onwards, we've just seen an upward transgression of the Zambian women's game, because of course whilst they're developing the men, the women are also just latching on, and this is why you've seen all these top players like Barbara Banda being unleashed. I actually saw Banda as she was still raw, playing in the age group teams, and you could see the development that has been coming up. And look, right now they've got one of the most expensive female footballers in the world. And what has then been happening is that the coaches have been improving on their scouting, have been expanding their outreach, their scouting programs. And this is why you've seen the emergence of top players, and that is what we're witnessing right now in Zambia. And it's not by accident this successes that Botswana and Zambia have been going under. It's really been good hard work that has been planned. And I think this is why the local football association here in Zimbabwe are kind of like copying that strategy that has been put in place by their northern neighbors and their southern African counterparts.
That's the voice of Spencer Tawanda Banda, the ever-energetic sport broadcaster from Zimbabwe, talking to us on all things Zimbabwean and African sport. Spencer, thank you so much for your insight and contribution to Africa at Play. Have an awesome afternoon further.
Thank you so much. And to everybody, I think you are seeing what's happening in the Zimbabwean Premier League. The new teams, like I talked about in the earlier programs, the likes of Scotland, Moors, Tel One. These are new teams, but because of putting up good structures, they are occupying the top spot in the Zimbabwean Premiership. We've just seen a shift where Simba Bora are now the team that is at the top of the log standings, closely followed, of course, by Moors, and then you have Tel One, and then Scotland. But this is actually a very great portrayal of how good organization, proper funding can be able to transcend into excellent results. The previously dominating teams, like Dynamo's actually sitting taken from the bottom. The giants, Dynamos from Zimbabwe, are struggling because of, the structures we've been talking about. And it's going to be very, very sad. It's highly likely that a huge African giant in the form of Dynamo Football Club might be relegated at the end of the season.
Spencer Tawanda Banda, thank you so much for your contribution to Africa at Play, talking to us about Zimbabwean and African sport. Simba Bora, the reigning champions, back to the summit of the Zimbabwe Professional Football League. It will be interesting to see if they will be able to maintain that position, because football is a game where those that are referred to as the underdogs could just come to spoil the party and grab maximum points at any time. It's good for the game of football on the African continent. We take a short break. When we come back, we will be welcoming Francis FM Mutegi, our correspondent based in Nairobi, Kenya, to talk about all things Kenyan and East African sport. This is Africa at Play. Asteleli Siasha.
The Midnight Snack, 12 to 3 a.m.
Young couples or young people that are getting married, we often hear of divorces, that they're getting divorced, and it's quite worrying because when we attend these weddings, we want to see these people flourish and celebrate 30-year anniversaries. What do you think is the main challenge that is facing newlyweds?
We say that tell me how you were raised and I'll tell you how you love. So when we see people getting married, that's not where the relationship actually starts. The relationship starts with how you were raised, what you were familiar with, because we are attracted to what we are familiar with. If you don't have a background where love was prominent, where love was authentic, it's going to be very difficult for you to manufacture that in later life. So our upbringing has something to do with it.
The Midnight Snack, every Monday, 12 to 3 a.m. with Chanduko Ligege. No matter where you are, Channel Africa is always with you. The stories, the scores, the spirit of the game. Catch Africa at Play with Neto Chemane. Saturdays from 2 to 5 p.m. on Channel Africa.
15:50 Central African Time. A very warm welcome to Africa at Play. If you have just joined us, we are together until 5 p.m. Central African Time. This is the second and the final edition of Africa at Play this weekend, but we will be back again next week, Saturday and Sunday from 2 to 5 p.m. Central African Time. Let's now welcome Francis FM Mutegi, our Nairobi-based correspondent from East Africa. Mutegi, good afternoon and welcome to Africa at Play.
Good afternoon, and indeed, thank you for the opportunity again to contribute to the show, and good afternoon and good evening to the rest of the continent.
Thank you so much for joining us. East African football-loving community must have had something to celebrate when the Twiga Stars of Tanzania held the reigning champions Banyana Banyana of South Africa to a 1-1 draw, a match dominated by Banyana before that free kick came about and that beautiful header finding the back of the net. And that goes to show you that in football, you could have a dull game, but only one moment could just be magical and make you the hero of the moment, or the shiro perhaps in this case, since we're talking women's football. How's the feeling in East Africa after that match?
An incredible feeling, definitely very, very exciting, very happy indeed that an East African outfit managed to pull such a great surprise, and for that reason, Ghana some points out of a very, very formidable outfit in Banyana Banyana of South Africa in what is emerging as a very, very competitive Africa Cup of Nations for women. And as you can imagine, this is the tournament that is producing probably the best of the African women football, and Morocco, being the host nation, of course, have had their push from their own fans. But when an East African outfit goes to this tournament and goes as far as holding Banyana Banyana of South Africa, who are, of course, a renowned outfit from the African context in terms of women's football, then you've got reason to believe that the African game is on a rise. The East African teams are beginning to rebuild their belief, and there is a possibility that the East African nations will very soon start becoming a formidable outfit to play in the African continent when it comes to the game of football. And in this situation, of course, the Tanzanians a lot of pride in the fact that they took the lead and held on for quite a long time before South Africa were able to make that equalizer, and eventually producing some really scintillating performances from either side in the dying minutes, but none was able to get the killer. And so the game ended as a draw, as you mentioned. And so for Tanzania, being the first time to appear in the tournament, this was a great achievement. It's a huge, huge milestone. And for that reason, the East African region has got a reason to cut that cake, Neto.
15:53 Central African Time. We are talking to our East African brother, Francis FM Mutegi, our correspondent based in Nairobi, Kenya, talking all things Kenyan and East African sport. And we were just talking about the Twiga Stars match up against Banyana Banyana, where the Twiga Stars surprised Banyana by holding them to a 1-1 draw, scoring first, and Banyana finding the equalizer in the second half of that match, changing the complexion of the table in Group C. To bring you up to speed. The Copper Queens of Zambia beat DR Congo by a goal to nil yesterday, and that gave them 7 points. Together with the host nation, the Atlas Lionesses of Morocco, also on 7 points. And these two nations have made it through to the next coming stage, which is the quarterfinals. We've got the Super Falcons, 9-time African winners, taking on the Phoenix of Algeria at 2100 Central African time tonight. And also the North African outfit, the Carthage Eagles, Tunisia, will be taking on the blue, black and white of Botswana at 2100 Central African time. Reigning champions South Africa back in action tomorrow against Mali at 2100 Central African time. The Black Queens of Ghana will take on the Twiga Stars of Tanzania tomorrow, and both of these nations are sitting on a point each after grabbing a draw, and that's the best they've achieved so far. Say, Mutegi, do you think the Twiga Stars will trouble the Black Queens of Ghana? I'm certain that will be a consolation victory, even if the Twiga Stars doesn't make it to the quarterfinals, but a win would be something to write home about.
Well, pulling a point out of South Africa is good enough to tell that the Twiga Stars cannot necessarily be underrated. And by the way, in Swahili, Twiga is the giraffe. The giraffe means that animal that has got a very long neck and can see pretty far and can stand even among the tallest trees around. And so the Twiga Stars are supposed to stay as far as getting a point, trying to make history. And you don't want to presume that Ghana are not as good because they've got a good history in football, even though on the men's side as compared to Tanzania. But when it comes to the women's football, anything is possible, especially in the African continent. You may not point out the strength of the national men's team in the women's teams, and that is exactly what you also get from Kenya, for example. That is why the Kenyan under 18 girls managed to go to the World, and they came from the World Cup with some real good performance, even beating some very serious outfits in that particular championship last year. And so when it comes to the women's football, you may not judge the team on the basis of their men's side performance, and that is the strength that Ghana has got in terms of history and their ability in the men's game. They've challenged the world in the World Cup as well. But when it comes to the women's game, things are totally different. So anything is possible, even though both sides, of course, will be looking for consolation points. It will be a good thing if the Tanzanians can grab some 3 points out of this match and make it 4 points. That will be good history for the books and in the eventual dream of being better in the years to come, Neto.
The clock is on a rapid run to the African Nations Championship, well known as CHAN, a tournament that was since moved due to the state of unreadiness by the 3 East African countries. But I'm certain we are at a good point to say it is indeed happening from the 2nd of August 2025, concluding on the same month on the 30th of August 2025. Tanzania will open up the proceedings against Burkina Faso on the 2nd of August at 1900. But the Harambee Stars will also be represented. How is the team of the former Manchester United and Bafana player, former Manchester United assistant coach Benny McCarthy, looking like, who is now the mentor of the East African boys, Harambee Stars?
Well, Ben McCarthy has done some tremendous work since he arrived in Nairobi. He's been on a roll in terms of lifting the teams and making the national team get some real impetus and believe that they've got the pedigree to play literally any outfit, and that is exactly what he wants to produce from this side. He selected some real good impression of youngsters who are basically rookies, not so experienced with the international football, but at the same time he's brought in a blend of some, let me say, experienced players who will give some history and believe in the younger players' intention, of course, of trying to go all the way probably to the final, because Kenya will be hosting the final on that 3rd of August, as you mentioned. And this is going to be an opportunity for the local league players to give him some impression of what they can do. It doesn't have to die looking for the foreign-based players, even in the future assignments that he's got with the World Cup qualifiers and the like. And so I think he selected some real impression as a clear indication that he has got some, let me say, belief that he can take this fight to as far as he can go, probably to the final. Actually said, even if it means winning this trophy, that is exactly what they will be trying to do. And I want to believe with the selection that he's done, he's got the reason to start believing that with the home crowd support, the top player in that case, because they will be hosting the final match, then there is a belief that Kenya can reach the final and maybe try to win that trophy, Neto, which will be historic, of course.
15:59 Central African Time. We are talking to Francis Motegi, our correspondent based in Nairobi, Kenya, on all things Kenyan and East African sport. So Motegi, the 2025 Rugby Africa Cup, which is the 20th edition, is currently underway in Kampala, Uganda, and they are hosting this tournament for the second consecutive time, having hosted the previous edition, and it's good for East Africa as there is a calendar of business in different sporting codes. Talk to us about the latest in the 20th edition of the Rugby Africa Cup that will be concluding on the 19th of July. An 8-nations team. Fortunately, the world champions, the Springboks, do not have to be part of this one because of their elite status as the reigning champions of World Rugby.
Oh, yes, indeed. South Africa, of course, have got to be given a bye when it comes to this tournament within the continent purely because of their level of play, which is superior, way beyond what you can get from the rest of the continent. Of course, teams like Kenya, Zimbabwe, and at times the likes of Algeria and maybe Namibia, as well as and Morocco are the teams, including Madagascar as well, that give them a little bit of headache alongside Uganda. But in the actual sense, the South Africans are way beyond the caliber of what you get from the rest of the continent, and that is why they are not given a lot of bother by this kind of engagement, which is the Africa Cup. And in that context, therefore, they are not involved in this particular event. And once again, it is now a battle of who is the other African side that can go to the World Cup 2027. And as things stand, the first semi-final ended with Namibia winning 21-7 against Algeria, and in the second semi-final, currently underway in the second half just started 2 minutes away since the kickoff of the second half, and Kenya is currently leading Zimbabwe 18-13, and as things stand, if Kenya can go to the conclusion of this still on the lead, then they've got a reason to go to the final with a lot of excitement, because going to the final is an assurance of a place to battle for a World Cup place. And in that context, therefore, we wait and see what becomes of this. Of course, the game is way too far away. We still have got some 38 minutes to go before the final whistle and conclusion of this particular semi-final. But as things stand, Kenya is leading Zimbabwe with 18-13, and Namibia are through to the final, and they'll be waiting for the winner between these two, and that is exactly what will decide who will play in the final and who will represent Africa alongside South Africa in the World Cup 2027. But of course, also when you reach the final, you are guaranteed of the next edition of the tournament. That will be the Africa Cup again next year. And so Namibia...
Yeah, he was an active player in the Gambia national team in 1984 and played important matches to represent the country very well, and also participated in some of the qualifying matches for the 1986 FIFA World Cup. And he joins us now on Africa at Play. The legend of the game, Mr. Ndong, we are excited to be welcoming you to Africa at Play after this short break.
You like what we do on Channel Africa? Then follow us on our socials. Channel Africa 1 on all social pages. And get the African perspective. The Midnight Snack, 12 to 3 a.m.
Young couples or young people that are getting married, we often hear of divorces, that they're getting divorced, and it's quite worrying because when we attend these weddings, we want to see these people flourish and celebrate 30-year anniversaries. What do you think is the main challenge that is facing newlyweds?
We say that tell me how you were raised and I'll tell you how you love. So when we see people getting married, that's not where the relationship actually starts. The relationship starts with how you were raised, what you were familiar with, because we are attracted to what we are familiar with. If you don't have a background where love was prominent, where love was authentic, it's going to be very difficult for you to manufacture that in later life. So our upbringing has something to do with it.
The Midnight Snack, every Monday, 12 to 3 a.m. with Chanduko Ligege. Are you fluent in French, Chinyanja, Portuguese, and Kiswahili? Are you passionate about radio? And are you looking to work in South Africa? Do you have papers that qualify you to work in South Africa? In that case, we might have an opportunity for you to work for Channel Africa. Send us your CV and demo at newsroom@channelafrica.co.za. Remember, if you don't hear from us within 14 days, it means you have not made it or you have not been selected. Channel Africa, the African perspective. What are the sports legends up to? Let's find out from our legend of the day on Africa at Play with Neto Chemane.
16:06 Central African Time. It is that time of the afternoon where we get to find out what are the legends of football or different sporting codes up to, because sport is very addictive. You find a footballer saying they are retiring, but it's just for communication purpose, because they hang up their boots only to collect them and play legendary games and sometimes even plow back through coaching. Today we are welcoming a Gambian legend, Mr. Seng Ndong, who is a football manager and a former player. Mr. Ndong, good afternoon and a warm welcome to Africa at Play.
Good afternoon.
Let's go back to Mr. Ndong's days as a little boy. When did you first meet football?
Well, I think I was made for football, but football was not made for me. Because I started playing football since I was in primary school. That was in the 70s. Then I went to secondary school. Then I went to the second division, the National League, then the fourth division. Then I played for the junior national team, then the senior national team. Then I became the captain of the senior national team. After that, I became the national team coach. And now I am the technical director of the Gambia Football Federation.
It is an incredible journey of football. How was it playing football in the 70s versus what we currently witness as modern football?
Well, as we normally say, the present generation, we're working for the future generation. I think we took the most difficult part of it. But the generation before us were even worse because they had to travel by trucks to Guinea, Conakry, or to Sierra Leone, or wherever. At least when we came, we had Land Rovers and buses. Today, the national team players are traveling with chartered flights. So it's a massive difference.
16:08 Central African Time. If you have just joined us, welcome to the conversation with the football legend, Mr. Seng Ndong, a former football player and a coach. A very exciting journey where he started football in primary school and went up different ranks until the professional stage. Got to play for the national team, became the team captain, and later on became the football manager of the national team of Gambia and currently serving as a technical director. It is indeed an exciting journey for this legend, Coach Ndong. Coach, talk to us about when you played football at that time when you were looking promising. At what point of your journey as a footballer did you see it coming that you are a national team material?
When I started playing, I was playing for a town team where it was a team that belongs to the Christian community. They used to call them Augustinians. Well, in the 60s, they used to be a very big team in the 60s up to the 70s, but after 80s, most of the people playing had traveled, some of them died. So we tried to bring the team back to the football map, but it didn't work because we didn't have the support we needed from like officials and basic structures. So with that, I had to move on and join another team called the Hawks Football Club, where I played until I retired. And when I started playing Wesleyan, I think people saw potential in me that I can be a future footballer. And I was advised to look for a better team and a bigger team. So I moved on and joined the Hawks Football Club, where I served as a player, a coach, and now I am among the executive members also, because this is amateur football in the Gambia.
And when you were selected to represent the national team as a captain, did you ever think of it that one day you will become the national team coach?
Yeah, I think that's in my introduction. I told you normally people are meant for football. Some football are meant for people. For me, I think I was meant for football because when I played, even when I went to my first team, I was goalkeeper number 3 or number 4 because of my age, 13, 14, 15 years. So I started from number 3, number 4, or number 5, and 4, and I became the captain of Hawks even before becoming the captain of the national team. And in the national team, the same thing. I got there, I met my senior players there, and I had to fight all my way from number 3, 4 until becoming the captain before retiring and taking up. And when I played football, I found some very important personnel in my life in coaching, which is my first coach used to be the late Mr. Kaba M.I. Jallo, and he's no more. And then after that, I found another coach, that one of the first trained coaches we had in the Gambia, who was trained in Norway. He's presently in Norway, called Sehusar. He was also once the captain of the national team, then the coach. I think these people inspired me and showed me and told me that you can be a leader or you can be a coach tomorrow. So I think that those are some of the things that motivated me and showed me I've got all to be a coach.
Do you have top 3 matches of your playing days where you can outline and say this match against this team or against this national team was one of the highlights of my career because of whatever happened in those matches?
As a player, I think the most difficult game was Black Star against the Gambia. I think that was in 84, 83, 84, 85 in Ghana. And we lost by 1-0. And it was, I think, among the first matches I've played in a capacity like the one we found in Accra. You know, the fans, the stadium, the atmosphere was very hostile. And for us, we used to play in very small stadium here. So, but at least it's also pushed us to step up with our performances.
And Coach, in educating the upcoming African young goalkeepers, what would you like to say as the basics of a good goalkeeper that these young goalkeepers can look forward to in terms of, you know, the importance of how you behave as a goalkeeper? We've seen a match where Zambia in the Women's Africa Cup of Nations were in their opening match against the Atlas Lionesses of Morocco. The goalkeeper left the line and the Moroccan player realized that the goalkeeper was off position and she was able to volley it to the rooftop of the post. And that's how Zambia, you know, considered, and a good goalkeeper would have came to say to this young goalkeeper, you do not leave your line during these moments of the games. So what are some of the qualities of a good goalkeeper that young goalkeepers on the African continent can learn from the legendary coach Sengdo?
I think the first thing is the size of the goalkeeper. You need to be a big guy. That is the first thing. The second thing, you talk about the size before you talk about the technique. Which is how you handle the ball with your hands, and now handling the ball and controlling the ball with your feet. It's very important in goalkeeping these days. And, you know, we are happy that through CAF, we're able to register in the convention, whereas we're running our courses, and in all the football and all the courses we've got, Presently in the Gambia, we're running the CAF D, the CAF C, and the CAF B. And in all these programs, we put more emphasis on goalkeeping and scoring, because these are two deficiencies we've got in not only in the Gambia, but in African football. You know, we can defend well, we can do everything, but we have problems scoring and the quality of our goalkeepers. And nowadays, you find out that we're producing very good goalkeepers from Africa, and size-wise, they are also big goalkeepers. And that's some of the secret that we need to know about goalkeeping.
How do you reflect to your tenure as the former coach of the national team of Gambia?
Well, I think we created what is being utilized today, because as the national team coach, we had very limited professional playing for the Gambia. And by then, Senegal, Morocco all came back from World Cup and had to play against Gambia while I was the national team coach. And by then, we were counting about 3 or 4 national team players together with our home-based players. I can fully remember when we played, when Morocco, Haji and others went to the World Cup. They came back. I think their first game was against the Gambia here. And we lost 1-0 home. We went back to Morocco. We lost 2-0. Then the recent one was when Senegal went for the first World Cup. When they came back, their first game was against the Gambia here at the Independence Stadium, and we drew 0-0. And then we went to Senegal and we lost 3-1. But by then, we had a mixture of local and foreign-based players of late. But today, we can count on hundreds of Gambians being professional. But by then, we cannot count on full-time professional. We were counting on players playing in these small leagues in Scandinavia or wherever, and we blend them with our local. It was difficult. It was a big challenge for us, but we were able to sustain. But today, like I told you, everything is changed, and we've got Gambian players playing all over the world.
We are talking to the legendary Coach Seng Ndong from Gambia, who is the former national team player as a captain, a former goalkeeper, and a former coach of the national team, currently serving in the Gambian Football Association as the technical director. Let's also educate those listening to this conversation or viewing this conversation. Coach, as a technical director, what precisely do you do?
Our core business as a federation is to organize and develop football. And football, like the policies, come from the executive, and we implement our programs. So the technical director is the head of the technical department or the technical wing of the Football Federation, and responsible for all developmental programs that are run in the department, which is grassroots football, youth football, women's football, and we also talk about our developmental national teams, under 15, under 17, both boys and girls, under 20, under 23, Chan national team, and we're not responsible for the senior national team because that is elite football. But the rest are all under the technical department, and our responsibility, our core business is to develop football and to organize football in this country. The technical department, we are responsible solely and purely for the development of football.
What do you think is the state of Gambian football as it stands, including women's football, because we can't count it out? It's part of the game of football.
Yeah, the federation are doing everything possible to give support to women's football, because we are presently registered in all the categories. Presently, our senior national team just beat past Niger, and we're playing against Kenya in September. And if they win, they'll be going to the finals. So the women's football, we're doing well. We just finished competing the under 20 national team also. So everything is working, and women's football is part of the technical department. We have a special section in the technical department headed by a woman and an assistant. We call them the women football coordinator and the assistant women coordinator. So they are responsible for the development of women's football inside the technical department.
Football legend from Gambia, former captain, former goalkeeper of the national team, and also former coach, currently serving as the technical director under the umbrella of football in Gambia, Coach Seng Ndong. Coach, thank you so much for talking to us on Africa at Play. Before I let you go, how many years do you think it will take for Gambia to win the Africa Cup of Nations?
Well, we've been there twice, and we missed it this time. And we'll be going, and we've got it. It can happen. I thought you were going to ask me, how long is it going to take to see the Gambia in the World Cup? But the Cup of Nations, we're already there. We've been there twice. Who knows whether when we go for the third time, we'll win it.
While you are on it, let's talk about the World Cup.
Hello? Yeah?
I'm saying while you're on it, let's talk about the World Cup, Gambia being represented in the World Cup.
Yeah, we are in the World Cup, but we are still struggling. We're not doing very well. And there's the chances of us going to the World Cup is out. But at least it was a good try for us. We had a coach here for about 6-7 years, and he left. And we just got in a new coach, and he is trying to put up a team. So he's using the World Cup and the previous Cup of Nations qualifiers, I think, to know players better. So we expect him to do better in the next competition, which is the next qualifiers for Cup of Nations and the next qualifiers for World Cup. For this year, for this World Cup, we are out of it, and it was a good opportunity for the coach to see and know his players better.
The legend of a footballer from Gambia who represented the national team as a captain, as a goalkeeper, and later on as the head coach of the Gambia national football team, currently is serving as the technical director. He's really been a part of football in Gambia for many years, who started playing in the 70s and made impact representing Gambia very well. Very patriotic about Gambian football, Coach Seng Ndong. Coach, thank you so much for talking to us on Africa at Play. Have a good afternoon further.
Thank you very much, and have a good afternoon too.
That's how we wrap up our conversation with the legend of football in the Legends Corner, 1621 Central African Time. Fally Ipupa Nsimba, known professionally as Fally Ipupa, is a Congolese musician and dancer, often referred to as the Prince of Rumba. He is known for his tenor vocals and his fusion of contemporary and traditional Congolese music. Let's find out what he says this time around. He says bloke paroles. This is Africa at Play.
Africa at Play. Beautifully, happily marrying sports and music.
Aigle. Frappe. Tout le monde les bras en l'air. Allez, Pépa, 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 Pépa.
Africa is a story, a living, breathing, ever-evolving masterpiece. And for over 5 decades now, one voice has told it like no other. Channel Africa. More than just a broadcaster, Channel Africa is the pulse of the continent. African-led, African-run, and deeply rooted in its heritage. It's the only international station that speaks to Africa in its own voices. English, Kiswahili, Chinyanja, French, and Portuguese. The languages that unite 1 billion people. We have been there through every shift, every milestone, and every triumph. Not just reporting history, but shaping the conversations that define Africa's future. For brands, media planning, and advertisers, Channel Africa is more than just a platform. It's an opportunity. With 25 compelling shows covering current affairs, sports, business, music, and lifestyle, we deliver an engaging Pan-African audience ready to connect, invest, and act. Multi-award winning, internationally recognized, digitally accessible across the globe. When Africa speaks, the world listens, and Channel Africa makes sure of it. For business, for culture, for Africa, partner with Channel Africa, because Africa's voice is the future. Africa is a story, a living, breathing, ever-evolving masterpiece. And for over 5 decades now, one voice has told it like no other. Channel Africa. More than just a broadcaster, Channel Africa is the pulse of the continent, African-led, African-run, and deeply rooted in its heritage. It's the only international station that speaks to Africa in its own voices: English, Kiswahili, Chinyanja, French, and Portuguese. The languages that unite 1 billion people. We have been there through every shift, every milestone, and every triumph. Not just reporting history, but shaping the conversations that define Africa's future. For brands, media planning, and advertisers, Channel Africa is more than just a platform. It's an opportunity. With 25 compelling shows covering current affairs, sports, business, music, and lifestyle, we deliver an engaging Pan-African audience ready to connect, invest, and act. Multi-award winning, internationally recognized, digitally accessible across the globe. When Africa speaks, the world listens, and Channel Africa makes sure of it. For business, for culture, for Africa, partner with Channel Africa, because Africa's voice is the future. Africa is a story, a living, breathing, ever-evolving masterpiece. And for over 5 decades now, one voice has told it like no other. Channel Africa. More than just a broadcaster, Channel Africa is the pulse of the continent, African-led, African-run, and deeply rooted in its heritage. It's the only international station that speaks to Africa in its own voices: English, Kiswahili, Chinyanja, French, and Portuguese. The languages that unite 1 billion people. We have been there through every shift, every milestone, and every triumph. Not just reporting history, but shaping the conversations that define Africa's future. For brands, media planning, and advertisers, Channel Africa is more than just a platform. It's an opportunity. With 25 compelling shows covering current affairs, sports, business, music, and lifestyle, we deliver an engaging Pan-African audience ready to connect, invest, and act. Multi-award winning, internationally recognized, digitally accessible across the globe. When Africa speaks, the world listens, and Channel Africa makes sure of it. For business, for culture, for Africa, partner with Channel Africa, because Africa's voice is the future. Africa is a story, a living, breathing, ever-evolving masterpiece. And for over 5 decades now, one voice has told it like no other. Channel Africa. More than just a broadcaster, Channel Africa is the pulse of the continent, African-led, African-run, and deeply rooted in its heritage. It's the only international station that speaks to Africa in its own voices: English, Kiswahili, Chinyanja, French, and Portuguese. The languages that unite 1 billion people. We have been there through every shift, every milestone, and every triumph. Not just reporting history, but shaping the conversations that define Africa's future. For brands, media planning, and advertisers, Channel Africa is more than just a platform. It's an opportunity. With 25 compelling shows covering current affairs, sports, business, music, and lifestyle, we deliver an engaging Pan-African audience ready to connect, invest, and act. Multi-award winning, internationally recognized, digitally accessible across the globe. When Africa speaks, the world listens, and Channel Africa makes sure of it. For business, for culture, for Africa, partner with Channel Africa, because Africa's voice is the future. Africa is a story, a living, breathing, ever-evolving masterpiece. And for over 5 decades now, one voice has told it like no other. Channel Africa. More than just a broadcaster, Channel Africa is the pulse of the continent, African-led, African-run, and deeply rooted in its heritage. It's the only international station that speaks to Africa in its own voices: English, Kiswahili, Chinyanja, French, and Portuguese. The languages that unite 1 billion people. We have been there through every shift, every milestone, and every triumph. Not just reporting history, but shaping the conversations that define Africa's future. For brands, media planning, and advertisers, Channel Africa is more than just a platform. It's an opportunity. With 25 compelling shows covering current affairs, sports, business, music, and lifestyle, we deliver an engaging Pan-African audience ready to connect, invest, and act. Multi-award winning, internationally recognized, digitally accessible across the globe. When Africa speaks, the world listens, and Channel Africa makes sure of it. For business, for culture, for Africa, partner with Channel Africa, because Africa's voice is the future. Africa is a story, a living, breathing, ever-evolving masterpiece. And for over 5 decades now, one voice has told it like no other. Channel Africa. More than just a broadcaster, Channel Africa is the pulse of the continent, African-led, African-run, and deeply rooted in its heritage. It's the only international station that speaks to Africa in its own voices: English, Kiswahili, Chinyanja, French, and Portuguese. The languages that unite 1 billion people. We have been there through every shift, every milestone, and every triumph. Not just reporting history, but shaping the conversations that define Africa's future. For brands, media planning, and advertisers, Channel Africa is more than just a platform. It's an opportunity. With 25 compelling shows covering current affairs, sports, business, music, and lifestyle, we deliver an engaging Pan-African audience ready to connect, invest, and act. Multi-award winning, internationally recognized, digitally accessible across the globe. When Africa speaks, the world listens, and Channel Africa makes sure of it. For business, for culture, for Africa, partner
of Kofi Olomide, also known as the King of Ndombolo, who is also from Congo, and the song is titled Papangwasuma. You should see this man dance. You realize that age ain't nothing but a number. Very energetic, and his dance moves are just on another level. So hey, it's not about age. You can do it at any time, any day. It's time for sports news. If you have just joined us, a very warm welcome to Africa at Play. Starting off with rugby news. Rassie Erasmus wants to remain a Springbok head coach until the 2031 World Cup in the USA, but SA Rugby must act fast to keep him. According to reports, Erasmus is keen to extend his stay beyond the 2027 tournament in Australia and has the backing of his management team. However, he reportedly has 2 overseas options on the table should talks with SA Rugby stall. Erasmus has been in charge of the Springboks since 2018, guiding the team to the World Cup at glory in 2019 and 2023. Saturday's test against Italy in Port Elizabeth was his 41st at the helm, while he was also a hands-on director of rugby during Jacques Ninapa's 39-test tenure. Erasmus is not currently eyeing a promotion and sees continuing as a Barker head coach as his preferred option, provided a new deal is agreed soon. In football news, Rachel Kundananji's goal against the Democratic Republic of the Congo last night helped Zambia reach the quarterfinals of the Total Energies Women's Africa Cup of Nations in Morocco 2024. Kundananji has become the first Zambian player to score in 3 consecutive Women's Africa Cup of Nations matches, assisting the Copper Queens to reach the quarterfinals without a loss. Zambia finished second in Group A on 7 points, separated by a goal, with Morocco topping the group after dispatching Senegal by 1-0. Kundananji's 9th-minute strike was enough to seal the quarterfinal spot for the Copper Queens. Let's find out from this amazing player, Kundananji.
I don't know how I can say this, I wasn't expecting today because I felt so fatigued, so tired, but I kept on pushing, and I'll just say thank you, it wasn't easy.
Media colleagues, if you have any questions for Rachel, please show by raising your hand, and remember to tell us your full names and the media house that you are representing. Thank you.
I think in the first half, we didn't see how good we are. We were just playing, and we didn't see the spaces. But when we went in the locker room, we had to talk to one another. We had to communicate and say, guys, this is what we need to do. We have spaces, we need to do this, we need to do that. That's why if you saw in the next half, we had so much patience. We were moving the ball around, just knocking the ball around, because we know we had the game in control. This means a lot. When we came out, we said 3 points or nothing, because we are not dropping any points. And we came out, we said we have to score goals despite missing a couple of chances, And I was so glad that I picked that first free kick, which I believed in myself that I'll take it, If you saw, I had to take a deep breath, and in my mind I was only thinking one thing, a goal, and I was telling myself inside my head, a goal. And I took the chance and I scored. So as a team, we are so glad that we're in the next round, we're in the quarterfinal. We just want to do our best until the final, because we are here for the trophy. We wanted the first place, but unfortunately we didn't score more goals. We don't know how the results are on the other end, but we don't care which position we are now, but our eyes are still on the same thing, and we'll never look behind, we'll never look on the side. We're just looking at that trophy. That's it. We will go back, watch our games in the group stage, because we have, if I'm not mistaken, 5 days to the next match. So we are going back in our rooms. Tomorrow when we go at the pitch, we need to work on our mistakes, reflect about everything, and also we need to utilize chances in the next match, because it's a knockout stage. We are not giving out anything.
The result sends DR Congo crashing out of the tournament without a single win, while Senegal, who finished third in the group, have to wait to see if they will sneak into the quarterfinals as one of the 2 best third-place teams. Meanwhile, Football Association of Zambia, FAZ President Keith Mwemba, has urged the Copper Queens to remain focused and sustain the momentum as they prepare to meet the winners of Group B. FAZ will receive $200 million following the Copper Queens qualification to the last 8. Still in football news, Banyana mentor coach Desiree Ellis says their 1-1 draw with Tanzania proves that there is still more work to be done, and that there is no easy team participating in this edition of the Women's Africa Cup of Nations. The defending champions secured a crucial equalizer through Bambanani Mbane, which saw them reclaim the top spot in Group C with 4 points. Speaking at the post-match presser, Ellis gave credit to the Twiga Stars for putting together a solid game plan against them.
We felt that if we get the result with 3 points, we then go through to the last round already, but it's not to be so. There's still some more work to be done. And like I said, there's no easy team anymore. And we said here 2 days ago that the game is going to be difficult, because we know how difficult the game was going to be. Them not having picked up any points, we knew that they needed to win at all cost. And they came. We must give credit to them. They came with a plan. They came. They pressured us. They put us under pressure. Sometimes we were not under pressure, but yet we played like a team that was under pressure. and played right into their hands at times when we played the ball long, because it kept coming back instead of putting the ball on the ground and moving around and playing the ball into the spaces. And I felt when we did that, we looked really, really good, but still all to play for in the group.
Elise further adds that she is glad the changes made in the second half impacted the match outcome positively.
We're a team that we know our strengths, and I think too many times we rushed, especially in our build-up. We also played the long ball, which is not our strength, and we tried to play the ball around, move the ball around, and the minute we did that, we looked better. So that is one of the things we spoke about at half-time, but we also made changes because we needed a little bit more down the flanks as well, and I think both Rama and Hilda gave us that going forward. I felt also when they went down to 10, instead of moving the ball around like we asked or that we wanted to, we still kept playing long. That's not our strength. So putting the ball on the ground, was our strength, and I think that changed everything.
The 62-year-old coach also explained why she opted to start with Kaylin Swart in goals ahead of Andile Dlamini, who kept a clean sheet in the win over the Black Queens of Ghana.
We could hit them on the sides, and we felt that Kaylin could do that, but there's very small margins between both Andile and Kaylin. I think we're privileged to have two top quality goalkeepers, so anyone who can come in on the day and get and stand in the goals. And there's probably not many teams that have two quality goalkeepers like ours. I think if either of them goes to another country, they'll probably be the number one.
Banyana will now shift focus to their next clash against Mali on Monday at the Onyewa Stadium. Ellis says they will continue to take it one game at a time and refuse to think too far ahead.
I think it's too early to talk about titles. It's too early to talk about defending. There's still a long way to go, and there's still more games to be played. So for us, it's one game at a time. We don't want to think too far ahead, because then you lose focus of what's right there in front, and right in front of us is the next game.
Chelsea defender and captain Reece James has said whoever writes the Blues off against PSG in the FIFA Club World Cup final does so at their own peril. With PSG annihilating Real Madrid by 4-0 and Chelsea beating Fluminense by 2-0 in the semi-finals, the French side quickly became the favourites. PSG were also crowned European champions at the end of May when they demolished Inter Milan 5-0 at the Allianz Arena in Munich, the biggest winning margin in a final since 1956. James gave them credit, but insisted football is not always as predictable.
This game is a super high-level game. They are, one of the hottest teams in the world at the moment. But, this is a final. This is a one-off game. Everyone has them down as strong favourites. But, I've been in many finals before where we've been favourites. And, we haven't come out on top. So, this doesn't mean too much to me, and I don't really care, to be honest. That everyone is bigging up our opposition. We were preparing right, and we are going to win.
Although defeating PSG will be one of the Chelsea's biggest achievements, James was reluctant to agree with the notion that if they were to win, they would be the best in Europe.
I think that's a big statement. If we win on Sunday, we were probably the best team on the day. Does it make us the best team, in Europe? I'm not sure. We're striving to get there. Whether one game decides that, I don't know. It's probably up to you to decide.
The Chelsea skipper also admitted that the weather, with temperatures expected to reach 32 degrees, has been a huge factor throughout the competition.
I think the biggest challenge is the circumstances, we're playing in, the travel, the quality of the pitches. The climate is so hot, no one in Europe is used to this heat, playing at 3 o'clock in, the hottest time of the day is super difficult for us to adapt. I mean, the game will be harder for the team that don't have the ball, because you'll be running a lot more. But no, as you said, we are both playing in the same conditions. And yeah, I think we've played in it, a fair amount now, so I'd say we're slowly getting used to it.
James took the opportunity to clarify reports that he's been injured during the FIFA Club World Cup, hence coming off the bench in some of the matches.
Just to clear, I wasn't injured, so let's put that to bed. No, I wasn't feeling so good in the warm-up. I've come a long way, with my history. And could I have played? I probably could have played, but, if something happened in that game, then I probably would have looked back and thought, I had a warning. Why did I not listen? I thought it was the best decision, not to take unnecessary risk and, be available because, I believed and thankfully we won that game.
In cricket news, Australia collapsed to 225 all out in the first innings of their day-night test against West Indies in Kingston. The tourists were in a decent position at 157 for 3, but lost their remaining 7 wickets for just 68 runs. West Indies finished the day on 16 for 1 to trail by 209 runs, with Mitchell Stark bowling opener Kevlon Anderson for 3 on his 100th test appearance. Steve Smith top scored with 48 and Cameron Green added 46 for Australia, but their dismissals either side of the dinner break sparking the collapse. Shama Joseph was the pick of the West Indies bowlers with 4 for 33, while Jaden Sills and Justin Greaves took 3 wickets each. In tennis news, Africa's top-ranked player Alwande Skosana was the star performer during the Amex Wheelchair Tennis Series held at Gauteng East Tennis Courts in Benoni between the 27th of June and the 4th of July. Over the 2 tournaments that were contested, with South Africa hosting the ITF Futures events for the first time since 2019, local favourite Skosana and the men's singles and doubles titles, lifting 4 trophies with a dominant all-round effort. In the first tournament, top seed Skosana beat number 2 seed Anthony Dittmar of Germany 6-2, 6-0 to secure the title. And while Dittmar put up more of a fight in the second event, Skosana won the final 6-1, 7-5. Let's now hear from the champion of the moment, Alwande Skosana.
Well, it felt absolutely amazing for me to win both titles back-to-back, making it my first title of year 2020. And I think for me as a top-seeded player, it was really important to collect as many points as possible to help improve my ranking, which I think is my biggest priority right now. And of course, playing on home soil after 6 years really had an impact to winning both victories, as I had all the support and also a home ground advantage. But I think for me, the most important thing, which I actually wish in the future, is to have more of these tournaments, as they don't really cost us, much to play, accumulate the points that we need to improve our international rankings. Whereas, when every time that we need to do that, we have to travel to Europe and it actually costs us much. So I was really happy to win on home soil, and I really wish we have more of these tournaments.
Among the women category, 19-year-old Turkish player Zelia Asak won both singles finals. In the first tournament, she beat Nzukundlovu 6-3, 6-3, and at the second event, she swept past Nokwanda Hlongwane to secure a 6-2, 6-2 victory. Hlongwane did emerge triumphant, however, in the women's doubles division in both tournaments. She teamed up with 18-year-old Bridget Malipe, and the duo defeated top seeds Inam Madiloyi and Kopolo Mutabang in both finals. And lastly, in netball news, South Africa under-19 netball team coach Emily Matosa is proud to lead the team to their third Region 5 Games trophy in succession. This after South Africa dominated Malawi to a 37-32 win to defend their championship at the Windhoek Showgrounds in Namibia. Speaking to SABC Sport, Matosa says this is a testament to South Africa currently being the leading African nation in netball. We've got one more voice note from Bongani Juma on the topic of the day, and we will find out what's coming up on Mix Vibration with Jolene Nsungu.
Good afternoon, Neto and the listeners. This is Bongani Chuma from Lenesia. Neto, look, the issue of poor attendance going on right now in the WAFCON, I think it may be different factors such as poor marketing. But again, I think when you look at the women's game, it's not well supported throughout. You can look at the Hollywood Bet Super League here in South Africa, even in other countries where they've got these leagues. You don't see that big support happening. It's just that there. So that tells us that there's a lot of work to be done to promote the women's game from the grassroots level until at the nation to the national team. So we still have a lot of work to do so that we get the women's game to the level that we want it to be, more especially when it comes to supporters. Thanks.
16:49 Central African Time. Thank you to all of those that have shared their thoughts through our WhatsApp voice note number +27 63 406 9126. It is the time of the afternoon where we are interested to find out what's coming up on Mix Vibration when Africa's Velvet Voice says goodbye. And I've got my African brother, that is Jolene Nsungu, who's going to tell us what's coming up on Mix Vibration. Bonjour.
Bonjour Neto, voilà, Mix Vibration arrive, beaucoup de musique encore aujourd'hui, un bon dimanche à tous nos auditeurs qui nous suivent en ce moment. Eh bien, ils vont découvrir aussi un expert en vente aux enchères et avec lui, nous allons bien sûr discuter pour donner une idée sur l'achat de choses de deuxième main, notamment de véhicules, mais nous aurons beaucoup de musique pour faire du bien à tous nos auditeurs parsemés dans toutes les villes africaines. Merci.
Merci beaucoup. You can look forward to an exciting episode of Mix Vibration with Jolene Nsungu. This is Africa at Play as Delili Shaya. Channel Africa is doing impressive work indeed, broadcasting to the world in 5 languages, in English, Chinyanja, Kiswahili, Portuguese, and French. And Mix Vibration is coming up in the beautiful language of French. 16:50 Central African Time. Be reminded that SABC Sport brings you Chasing the Sun, a powerful 5-part documentary series about the Springboks, telling the rousing tale of their path to redemption and the ultimate World Cup glory in 2019. Starting this Sunday, the 13th of July at 19:30 Central African Time on SABC2. Tune in every Sunday for the highs, the heartache, and the heroics that made rugby history. Stream each chapter on SABC Plus anytime, anywhere. No subscription needed. Don't miss Chasing the Sun this Sunday at 17:30 Central African Time. Be there when history shines. We now welcome to Africa at Play, the encyclopedia of global athletics, for a quick update in the world of athletics. Sajid, thank you so much for joining us on Africa at Play. The burning issue that has been there under the umbrella of athletics is a court matter, where one would be thinking that athletics belongs to the track and field and the road for long distance running. But it doesn't seem to be the case. Caster Semenya was back in court and some people are celebrating, talking about the partial victory. And I was saying earlier on that it is always discouraging when you're supposed to focus on your career as an athlete and you find yourself in the court of law and you end up opting to take opportunities like coaching, realizing that you are unable to participate in your preferred discipline because of the so-called superior testosterone level.
Yes, I really take it, Neto. It's quite a very concerning subject. But I think Caster Semenya at the moment must be very happy that it's all behind her. But the sad part of it is that she has been in the doldrums for quite a long time with these allegations, the investigations, and at long last she has been cleared. But, you know, we all grow up. You know, she has grown a little bit older now. Obviously, it's time that she could have retired. But lucky enough, she enjoys athletics and she has gone into coaching. So that is a good thing. We will see what she's going to do as a coach. But I understand. You remember Caster Semenya at some point in South Africa worked with Maria Motola. So she must have got some good knowledge from Maria Motola, who actually dominated athletics during her days. So I just hope and believe that at some point she will probably produce some good middle distance runners, especially women in South Africa.
Sajid, the Diamond League series is up next in London on Saturday, the 19th of July. Have you been fortunate enough to see the start list? So who are the top athletes likely to produce exhilarating performances?
Yes, I have really had a sneak preview of the start list. The big matchup would be in the men's 100 meters, where there is Akani Simbine of South Africa, who at the moment has got the fastest time over the distance this season, and he will be competing against the likes of Letsile Tebogo of Botswana and Noah Lyles of the USA. So these are the big four athletes who will compete in the men's 100 meters, and obviously everybody, all the athletics fans, they're talking about it. Some, they're saying Akani Simbine will take it. He has been doing really well throughout up to the 11th stage of the Diamond League series. He's actually on top as far as the rankings are concerned. So obviously he should be fighting very hard to get the jackpot prize. But Noah Lyles, he is the Olympic champion over the distance, and just last weekend he narrowly beat Letsile Tebogo in the 200 meters. It was close though, so obviously there's a lot of tension going on, but that will be a big event come Saturday in London at the Olympic Stadium. It should be exciting.
How do you reflect to the Wimbledon women's singles final with Iga coming out a victor?
Yes, I'm sure many people didn't expect that. They expected a tough contest all the way, but it was just one-sided. 6-love, that was the winning score for Iga Świątek of Poland. It was relatively easy. I think some commentators, they're putting it was a whitewash. And then the lady from the USA, who actually did very well to fight all the way and got into the finals. And you remember, on her way to the finals, she even beat Arina Zabalenka of Belarus, who was actually the favorite for Wimbledon this year. And this lady from the USA, Anisimova, says she had a bundle of nerves. She could just not cope. So it's all over. She's out. She failed to make history, because if she had won this event, that would be the biggest upset in the women's tennis final.
And Saji, before we say goodbye, I'm looking at the clock and it's running rapidly towards 1700. Your thoughts on the men's singles final? We see Yannick Sinner, the world #1, up against the defending champions, Carlos Alcaraz.
Carlos Alcaraz wants to make history because he is trying to win it for the third time. So he's really pumped up. He's going to do his best. But then Yannick Sinner, I've watched his matches. He's a very hard hitter. He's technical. He's technically very good. He's a silent assassin, I should say that. So I think it will be evenly balanced. And I don't think this coming match will finish over 3 sets. It should be more than that. And I think it will be exciting. Whoever takes it will be a good player today.
Whoever takes it will be a good player today. Those are the words of the Encyclopedia of Global Athletics with passion in tennis as well. That is Kesham Sajinyati. Saji, thank you so much for talking to us on Africa at Play. All the best moving forward.
Excellent. Thank you.
16:58 Central African Time. No choice but to say goodbye. However, no regrets. We've had a good weekend. We hope you had a terrific one too. We will do it again next week, Saturday and Sunday from 2 to 5 p.m. Central African Time. Thank you to Francis FM Masina, our technical operator, my producer Andisiwe Fagimalu Zobona Mali, our social media guru Dumiselema, together with the audiovisuals streaming champions, that is Jabu Mnyakeni and Mr. Ntlantla Ngobo. My name is Neto Neto Chemane. Hosiati Konyangazi Mumkhatshwa phandle konjani moyani voko tendele. Africa at Play. Asteleli siyashaya. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.